Oh, okay.
I made a trip out too.
Oh, you went out there and got the data, the pictures and stuff. Shows how much I know.
It was kind of a...
I think what we did last year. Call the meeting to order. Do we have any citizen or public comments? Here's not. Welcome, everybody. Consideration or approval of the agenda.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Agenda is approved as submitted. Consideration or approval of the minutes of the November 12, November 16, and November 23 meetings. Any questions or discussion? So moved.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
The minutes of the November 12, 16, and 23 meetings are approved. Consideration or approval of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Go ahead. There a second? Second. Discussion? I was going to ask, are we now dealing with numbers instead of addresses? Is that the program?
Yes, those are account
fine.
numbers rather than
That's fine.
addresses. Mhm.
Is that required or?
I just talked with Ralph about it and asked him about how proper that was, to list the
Okay.
street address, and we decided that it might be better to do it as an account number.
That's fine.
If it's all right with Brad, it's all right with me then.
Well, yeah, Brad, we should ask you too since he's here, but yeah.
It's all right
well,
with me.
All right.
Well, we know the addresses anyway.
Yes, yeah, we would.
That's fine.
In the office, correct.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Consent calendar is approved as submitted. Business of the mayor, I think that the administrator is going to, and the clerk are going to be talking about the budget later, so I'll defer any comments I might have to the budget presentation or discussion. Next up, consideration of the second reading of ordinance 1087, amending Chapter 55, Animal Control. Discussion.
Well, this is our second reading of 3 readings for amending our Animal Protection Control Ordinance, which we've been working on for several months to change our dealings mainly with dogs, and we're implementing a dog licensing program. There's also going to be a leash law requirements. We addressed dangerous and vicious dogs within this, and while we are not doing any type of breed-specific ban, we are going to be licensing animals and incentivizing those dog owners to have their animals spayed or neutered, and microchipped. And the plan for this is to go into effect by the first of the year, and that licenses will be due annually March 1st.
Have we had any comments since the last meeting?
I've
First vote on
heard no comments either way.
Yeah, I just was curious if
I
anyone,
haven't either. It's been very quiet.
curious if anybody had any.
I've had none.
Especially with all the emails we received, I haven't seen anything either, so.
In reading this, and I meant to get to you earlier, and I didn't see, but we're going to do the licensing internally in City Hall because the outside person didn't work out, or?
Well, we're going to offer licensing through City Hall. We also plan to offer it through PAWS and through our local vets as well. But we'll definitely be handling it at City Hall as kind of the base, if nothing else. But the intent is to handle it at multiple locations and to make it as easy as possible when people go to take their animal to the vet. They can do it there. That's ultimately where we want to be.
We're going to
And our ordinance reads that way.
That's not going to overload us here. We're going to be able to handle it?
With the number of dogs that I think we'll be registering, we should be able to handle it without too much.
We hope so. That's the plan.
Get a little arf in your bark, huh?
Here we go.
Of course, any council member who wants to volunteer to do the licensing is...
Sure.
I think Mike will do a good job.
No, we should be fine.
Further discussion?
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
The second reading is approved, and we'll have it at this point.
Ordinance number 1087, an ordinance repealing Chapter 55, Animal Protection and Control, and adopting a new Chapter 55 entitled Animal Protection and Control, and which modifies the repealed chapter by modifying the definition pertaining to animals at large, by redefining the term vicious dog, by requiring registration of all dogs by their owners, by redefining the circumstances in which a dog can be impounded and then released.
Thank you. Next is the consideration of Resolution 137-15, approving purchase of an aerial fire truck. Discussion.
Well, at our last council workshop, we saw a presentation by Fire Chief Eric Whipple on the opportunity of a refurbished fire truck that has come available. We discussed several months ago about the need to replace our existing aerial, which is 35 years old, and we've looked at several of them. Used ones, I should say, as they come about, just to see if there's something that would meet our needs. And when this one came along, this one looked like it might be a really good fit for us. In that, there are some used components to this truck, components that are all being refurbished and put on a brand new chassis and essentially a brand new truck. So we're looking at an option that. Rather than spending the projected 1.2 million for a new truck, we could get essentially the same thing for about $730,000. So, at our last workshop, we discussed sending a letter of intent to the company, showing our interest in purchasing the truck, so that we could have consideration tonight on the purchase agreement. When we sent the letter of intent in, we received the purchase agreement back. Ralph went through it and made some suggestions and changes, and you got a copy of the original and his suggested changes as two separate documents in your packet, and then tonight before you got the final version, which is there were no changes made to those other than combining them. I sent our suggested changes to the supplier this morning, and they replied back saying that they were acceptable of all those changes that Ralph put in there, and most of them were mainly clarification of various things. So you have the purchase agreement before you for the truck. This last week, Marty Parcher from the fire department was able to go out and inspect the truck, and I think he's got some pictures to share with us and can tell us about what he saw and how it was. So, Marty, Hugh, if you wouldn't mind.
Step up to the, if you could.
Vanna's coming to help you.
Vanna's coming. Okay, is that better?
Vanna.
Well, you called me and
Identify
said...
yourself, sir.
What's that?
Identify yourself.
I'm Marty Parcher, and I am the Assistant Fire Chief for the City Charles City Fire Department and one of the full-time firefighters. This came about through the opportunity to go out and actually look at this truck and see what it was. I had a pretty good idea. I looked at the specs. I looked at some drawings and things of it, and actually getting to see it and then bring back some pictures to show you guys and maybe explain a few things. If you have questions at any of them, give me a holler. I'll try to explain whatever I can. Is that fair enough with you guys? Okay. Going through here, I just basically started on the back left side and started taking pictures of everything as an explanation. Basically, overall, they talked about some used parts. Essentially what that is, and I'll show you some pictures of that, is the turntable, the outriggers, and the ladder structure itself. Just the structure. Everything else inside of that is completely new and replaced, and I'll show you some of that stuff as we go through there. What this is the curbside as you go up along on the new truck. Everything is roll-up doors on this. On the back left, you'll see where there's an outrigger there. They get new cylinders put on the actual structure part of it. Any hydraulics are all new. Go ahead. Roll-up compartments are all the way around, gives a lot more usable space than the truck that we have now. It's an all stainless steel body. They manufacture all of it in-house. Go ahead. Essentially, like I said, I just went around and took pictures as we went through there. This has a DEF system, which you'll see more in depth in a few minutes. It has a Hale 1,500 gallon per minute pump. And the interesting thing about that is we had looked at the possibility of purchasing a 2,000 gallon per minute pump, which is basically becoming more of a standard. In talking to Mr. Bartholomew, Bill Bartholomew is the man who took me through this whole plant. He's basically the one in charge. He explained that this pump is exactly the same pump as a 2,000 gallon per minute pump. It just depends on how much water you feed to it. So this 1,500 is rated 1,500 because of the way it's configured in here. If we put enough water to it, it'll output 2,000 gallons a minute. It's the same exact pump. And if you get it rated for 2,000 gallons, it costs more. But you have the same thing. Showing a little bit there, the outriggers as they come out, you'd have to, I didn't, in this presentation or these pictures, I didn't have pictures of the new style outriggers, which are a little bit different. These are identical to what we have on our truck, and what they've done, the turntable, the outriggers, all of that comes off as one unit. All of the hydraulics, all of the electrics are all taken out of it. It's all sandblasted. All of the welds are inspected. It's reassembled back onto here with all new components. All you have basically is the steel structure that's considered to be the used part, or as like Delane was saying, if you read the thing, they called it experienced parts, but it came off of a different truck. This is still the curbside. You can see on there, there's places for ladders, as they would be on our aerial, with a tall storage compartment in the front. That's one of the things we don't have on our truck now, is tall storage. The pump compartment is in the front side of that there. Go ahead. One of the things I really liked that they've changed on this is a hydraulic cooling, separate hydraulic cooling system. The pump that we have, the truck that we have now, doesn't have that in it. It's a hydraulic pump that's in it, but it doesn't have the separate cooling system. This is the top section of the turntable. If you look at our aerial, you'll see exactly the same thing on it. And what they've done, they disassemble the entire turntable, the entire assembly, take all of the, what I'd say, consumable components out of it, rubber hoses, anything like that, any hydraulics, sandblast the whole thing, inspect all of the welds, inspect everything on it, make sure it's perfect. Then they repaint it again, and it'll be assembled and put on the truck. This is the way it is right now. It's not actually on the truck yet. All the new hoses and everything that are in there, there's nothing but nothing is reused except the steel structure itself. Just some different pictures of the control panel on the turntable itself, the pedestal. The cab, one of the changes in the new code for quite a few years now is they don't allow open cabs. If you've seen our aerial, the back side is open. That's the way they used to do it, and that's no longer an acceptable thing. This is a four-man, actually a six-man cab, 4 men in the back, 2 in the front. It's just like what our Engine 1 is. It's got full climate control inside. One of the things we talked about was years ago it was thought that that wasn't necessarily a necessity, and it's been proven through NFPA that especially having cooling capabilities in the summer is really important when you have guys that are in full turnouts, air packs, everything like that. You have to be able to do that. Sure.
What are you talking about with cooling capacity?
Air conditioning, basically.
Cooling capacity.
Cooling.
My hearing aid wasn't working.
Sorry.
Cooling
Yeah,
capacity.
cooling.
All right.
Air conditioning in fire trucks is a standard thing now. This is the captain's seat on the curbside front. The air packs on this particular truck are mounted into the seats themselves, so if you actually carry people to the scene, they can be packed up and ready to go when you get on scene, which is, it's a really nice thing. We have it in Engine 1 and Engine 2 that we have now. Much more user-friendly operator controls than what's in the old truck. This is pretty much a standard ergonomically for most fire trucks now. The wraparound console so that the operator, particularly in a situation like ours where one person's going to be taking it out and setting it up, has full access to all the controls without ever having to jump around to the other side and do things. You can have it pretty much set up, except for outriggers, right from the seat. Like I said, I went through and just took a bunch of pictures and then put them into here to show you guys. If you have questions, back up that one, would you? This is something in here that's really nice. The captain's seat now has, I don't know if you can see the 3 pedals down there on the bottom. From the captain's seat, you can run both of the sirens and the air horns all from there, which leaves the operator a lot less complicated with driving through traffic and stuff. When you have to do all of that by yourself, you got to keep a lot of things in mind. And this makes it a lot easier. Plus, it has a spotlight in there, handheld spotlight for navigation. It's a minor thing, but it's still kind of a nice thing to have there.
What happens if you don't have a co-operator with you?
It just makes it harder to do.
You can still run.
Yeah, you can still. One person can run the truck. It's if you've got somebody with you, it's a lot easier to let them navigate, especially if you're going somewhere outside district or something like that. This truck has backup video capabilities. It has a camera on the back as well as on the right side here. If you ever look at big rigs, over-the-road rigs, they usually have at least 3 mirrors and sometimes up to 5 on the right side. This, you have the big pedestal mirror that's mounted, but you also have a camera that'll tell you if somebody's right beside you and can see all along the side of the truck. Not much to say on the front. It's a typical fire truck. These are the controls in the cab. Again, as you're sitting in the driver's seat, you have all of your truck operations in front of you and right beside, and then just a little bit back is where the pump controls. These are all pump controls here. So you can set the pump, set pressures, transmission shifting is right there. It's a nicely built, nice setup. Climate controls inside. I did like being able to see some of the trucks when you get in have a higher dash. This one, when you're sitting in, you can actually kind of look over the dash and see closer down in front of you for visibility. Makes operations pretty decent. Cab tilt. This is something, because of the year, this is a refurb, so they took this apparatus off of another one. So we have the manual controls just exactly like what we have on the truck that we have now. Which I don't see as a problem because we've got experience with them and they work great. Some of the new trucks that have a lot more, I guess what you'd call bells and whistles, a lot of it's done electronically. You flip a switch and computers will set things, will set it up pressure-wise and everything else. But it's a lot more money too. And this works great. This is something we don't have that I do like. What we do right now when we set the outriggers, we do it manually. It's the way it was designed. And what I do when I pull our driver's side outriggers out, to see the other side, I have to look up in the cab at a mirror down to the other side to watch it come out, or have a spotter over there. This is all sensor controlled, so you know without a doubt when things are out and set. That's the gauges basically for the pump panel, operator controls. This would be the driver's side, road side of the pump. And this is looking down the roadside of the truck. If you remember or have looked at ours, you'll notice this is a lot taller because there aren't any ladders on this side of the truck now. It gives you a lot more compartment space. And in a couple pictures, I'll show you where the ladders that would normally be there are now stowed on this one. You have tons of compartment space. Again, that's the rear jacks for the outriggers. They've been replaced, rebuilt. Tall compartments. I asked them down there about shelving because there wasn't any shelving that was in these. He said what they normally do is they put tracks on each side and allow you to build shelves however you want. But he also said they will build whatever you want to put in, whether it's shelving, whether it's slide outs, roll outs, anything. Each one of the compartments, you can see the little strip in the middle is an LED light strip, really bright with very little draw. That's looking in from the back. And what you're looking straight down that kind of has a ladder look is actually going to be the hose bed. It's a divided hose bed, so it'll have hydrant line and attachments for 2.5 in there. Excuse me. At the front of that is a 300-gallon poly tank, and underneath, what you see is that black area in there is now where the long ladders go. They slide in underneath all along the frame in there. All of the frames, all of the structure, the entire truck is built in factory. It's not a commercial chassis in any way, shape, or form. They build everything on it. And I took a picture there. It's not extremely clear. What's that?
Do the ladders, the openings there, do they provide the ladders, or we need to remove them?
As I understand it, the ladders are provided.
Okay, so they'll fit the...
Yeah. Yep. I took a picture of this one to show that it's a triple frame or triple walled frame. They stack 3 different frames inside, and it's all huck bolted together. There's also no welding that's done on this. Everything is huck bolted. Welds are good, but welds also can create weak spots. And it's a tried and true process of huck bolting things together and having them never come loose. These pictures, I forgot to turn my flash off when I was doing it. So it shows the new standard for fire trucks, which is the chevrons on the back. Go ahead and show the next one. And it really reflects a lot, because the next picture shows what it's like without a flash. And that's the rear camera. Again, it's pretty dark, but that's just a picture of the poly tank that sits up in there. Again, 300-gallon tank. Cab flips up hydraulically, so you have access to everything underneath there. Again, this truck does run on DEF, and that's the DEF tank in there. Hugh and I were talking about that for what we run and from what I have learned about over-the-road trucks, we would use very little of this, maybe a gallon or 2 a year. The exhaust system is massive. It's an ISL Cummins 450 horse, 8.9 liter engine. Again, it's one of the Cummins tried and true ones that's virtually bulletproof. Another thing that they've done, because these are automatic transmissions and the transmission runs the pump, they've put auxiliary coolers on for the transmission that's fan cooled now instead of relying on the radiator to do it. That's the lift for the cab. That's the massive exhaust system. And in another couple slides, you'll see the right front or curbside front compartment right there has less space in it, and he said that was the only way that they could make that work with that massive exhaust system under there because of the regulation stuff. So they had to cut that down just a little bit. Again, the outriggers, the front outriggers, are virtually identical to what we have now. And these are just some pictures of walking around it, standing up on top. What you see in front of the aluminum tread plate is the top of the turntable. The other piece, as you see off to the right, is what will eventually go back onto there after everything has been replaced. And if you ever have a chance, come out and look at the truck we have now, and you'll see how many connections and fittings and pipings and everything that's in that. All of it gets replaced with brand new stuff. Top of the hose bed. This is just a picture I took of the fuel tank from underneath. And that's the ladder that will go back on it. Currently it's on a running gear that sits outside the shop itself. They take everything out of it. The waterway, the electricals, the air lines, the hydraulics, everything out of that. They check this over completely to make sure there's no cracks, no loose spots, nothing at all that's in any way a problem. And then they put all new components back into it again. Yeah?
Is that a 100-foot ladder like we have now?
I believe it's listed as 92. But from what I understand, the tip of the bucket is 95 to 100.
That's close.
Yeah, it's virtually the same thing as we have. What's that? Yeah, it will have. That's the other thing. It gets a new with the waterway. The waterway comes up and swings around each side of the bucket. Actually, is what holds the bucket, and that all is new. The waterway, the yoke, the bucket itself is completely new. All the components in that. This part here is the only part that's reused. This part, the turntable that you saw inside, excuse me, and the outriggers are all that's actually come from another truck. Everything else is brand new. Which, you know, in seeing that, especially seeing how they go through this and look at all these and inspect them and everything, you have a brand-new truck. There's nothing on it that wouldn't be virtually new. Anything I can tell you question-wise?
What kind of a warranty or whatever do we get with it?
20 years. That's what I read in the specs.
I can read through, I printed that. That was the one page of the spec book I printed out. I figured we want to look at that. It's got basically a 1-year bumper-to-bumper, parts and labor for mechanical defects and workmanship. There's a lifetime warranty on the frame, 7-year warranty on paint, 10-year warranty on body structural, 10-year on cab structural, 2-year aerial mechanical, 20-year aerial structural warranty, and any manufacturer warranties for any major components. It's listed separately. So,
Now, do you test drive, or how does it work? You bring it out here, and
The way I understood it in reading through and talking to him was once the truck is completely assembled, they usually like somebody to come out and do a final inspection, look it over, try it, whatever you'd like to do at that point. It's tested before that as far as the pump and the apparatus and everything. The pump itself is run through, I believe he said, 6 hours of continuous testing through all the phases. They've got a test facility there. The truck itself is test-driven and everything, but again, the way I understand, they like to have somebody come out and do a final inspection to accept it and say that everything's good. So that would be an option to have somebody do that. That's the way I understood it from him.
When I read they deliver the truck here.
Yeah, they'll drive it here.
Do they provide any special training for our people?
Right.
They will send somebody out when they deliver the truck to train whatever needs to be trained on it. That was what Eric said. I think that's in the
Part of the
specs
agreement.
too, that they'll send somebody to train everybody on how it works.
Have we established a trade-in value of our current truck?
not that I'm aware of. I know Eric was talking to him
We're
about that.
working with them.
Right. So any type of trade-in would be in addition or subtraction to this, I guess. But
Buying a truck like this is like buying an insurance policy. You hope you never have to use it. If you do, you're glad you have it. So maybe, with the value I've been hearing of our current truck, maybe we ought to keep it and drive it in parades and leave this one in the garage.
we had to build a bay somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Now, is there anything on this truck that, you know, there's a lot of positives going forward that we don't have. Is there anything that maybe that this new one is missing that we currently have, or anything that's lacking that we wish it had?
On a wish list type thing.
Let's be careful on that, but I
Yeah.
mean...
Well, one of the things that we had talked about at one time, and you and I talked a little bit, was we had talked one time it'd be nice to have foam capabilities on it. A lot of the new trucks have foam tanks, foam injection, things like that. It adds price to it. We do currently have things set up, again with our truck. Our Engine 1 has an onboard injection foam system that we designed to be able to pump to the aerial. So it's not a necessity. And like I was telling Hugh, they make foam eductors that you can put in line so that you actually can draw foam from a bucket right into it. That's a very cost-effective option for doing something like this. It's not as nice as being able to flip a switch and just have foam going into it, but if we needed foam through this, right now we can hook Engine 1 onto it and we can pump foam through it.
In the foam situation, is that more for a chemical-type fire, or is it just
Actually,
in
we
general
use that
use?
on virtually all fires.
Yeah.
There's Class A and Class B foams. Class B is the one that everybody usually associates with liquid fuel fires, chemicals, things like that. Class A is for any organics, wood fires, hay bales, anything like that, and we use that on almost every fire. It's really effective. It causes water to penetrate better.
I might like to mention I was on the council back in '76 to '80 when we bought the current fire truck. And I think it was a very big bone of contention then. I think everybody's been very happy with what we've had, and it's
Yeah.
time to replace. And I'd like to highlight that, number one, we have a lot of needs for this fire truck. Hopefully not usable, but with our chemical plants and our large buildings. And number two, we have used our current truck, and we probably will use, hopefully not, this truck for mutual aid, because we've had a lot of mutual aid situations, and that's good.
Yep.
I'm glad we can do that.
Yep.
So I think that's very important.
It's worked out very well with mutual aid situations, and I know, as you said, there's been contentions at times in the past about it, but it's been an excellent tool for example, a while back here, we went to New Hampton and helped them with a dryer fire, and they called up and just thanked us up and down that we made the difference in whether the dryer collapsed or we were able to get it out. And you know, small towns can't afford it, and they're more than willing. We've called them different times to come help us with things. So it's a back and forth trade type thing, and it's worked out really well.
This fits in our garage space? Okay.
It's supposed to. It's supposed to, according to the specs. And that was one of the things Eric wanted me to, when I got out there, one of the things he said is when you get out there, you throw a tape on the ground, you make them do it, and you measure it end to end. Well, as you see, that's not practical. The specs specify, I believe it's 47 6.5.
I think so, 47.
So that's in the specs that it can't be any longer than that.
If push comes to shove, we could put a smaller bumper on the front.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we talked about. It was going to cost us
We
an
could push and
additional
shove.
$1,100 to put a 1-foot bumper on rather than the current 2-foot bumper.
We may
But
be able
even
to
with
put
that, it'll
back that back wall out 10 feet.
Yeah, how
too.
flexible is that concrete wall back there?
I don't want to test that. Yeah.
17.5, 18 inches, if they come in within that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank Steve and the guys from the fire department, because I probably asked more questions on this than anybody if we really needed it and things. And I know Steve finally was able to get a hold of the guy down in Ankeny and get some information out of him, and Hugh and the rest of the guys from the fire department have been very good about trying to answer questions, and appreciate
Anything that
all
we
the
can
time and
tell
effort
you.
people have put into this.
Anything we can tell you, we'll gladly tell you.
Well, I guess if you send somebody out for a final review, you'd be able to measure at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
I'd be able to, I have Mr. Bartholomew's email and number and stuff, and he's a great guy. And I have no doubt he would drop a tape on that in a heartbeat. If I called him up and said if he said it's done, he'd tell us exactly what it is.
This coming out of Ohio?
Yeah.
Can foam be added to this truck?
It could. It could. There are systems now. The system that we have on our Engine 1 is a pressure injection type system, and I'm not sure they even make that one anymore, but Foam Pro, a company now, makes a system that is basically an onboard eductor system. Works basically the same as what I was explaining about putting an inline eductor, except that they actually put it in the truck. Our brush truck out there has that system on it now, and it's a lot cheaper than when they put the system on Engine 1 20 years ago. That was an expensive system, and Foam Pro system is a lot less. It can be added, yeah.
How much storage space would you lose if you put that on?
I can't swear to it, but I don't think a lot.
I mean,
Because
that's the only place you could probably go, though, right? Is
basically, yeah, an eductor system is essentially, we have one on the Marbrook department where I first came into these. It's a little pipe about this long where the hose comes out the side. You hook one end onto your inlet, the other one hooks onto a hose, and as water flows through that, it basically creates a Venturi effect and sucks foam out of a bucket, barrel, or a tank that would be on the truck. And the Foam Pro system is basically just like that, except that it's mounted in the pump compartment. That's what makes it less expensive. It has some electronics on the mounted ones, so you can actually dial in how much foam you're getting and stuff, but it's still basically a Venturi type system. It's not a pressurized pump. So it's a cost-effective way of doing it. If it was something, you know, I think that it could be done afterwards, probably. Obviously, on a wish list type thing, the time to do it would be where the pump is all opened up and everything is right there, would be the easiest time to do it. But
Just seems to me like if that's something you use on every fire,
we do.
it's something you would want to look at here and have it integrated in there if it's possible to do that smoothly.
This is going to be the cheapest time to put it in.
exactly.
It would be the cheapest
Especially if
time
we're
to
going
do
to
it.
get potentially something with a trade-in that maybe could go towards this system. I don't know the expense of adding that in, but
I didn't ask him at the time because I basically wanted to get the information on this to bring you guys so you know what this is. And
Do you have that system on our other trucks?
we have that on engine 3, the brush truck that we got.
If you have that type of a fire, you're gonna have a foam system there.
Yeah, we have,
Not
that truck is
necessarily
made,
on this truck, but on some other trucks.
excuse me?
Not necessarily on this truck, but on one of our other trucks?
Yeah, the engine 3 has a Foam Pro system on it.
Okay.
Um,
Of course, you went to a mutual aid, and you wouldn't have the foam possibly available if you went to like...
No, if we went to somewhere else, we wouldn't have that available because our engine 1, which is the first truck, that's the big one you see go to every fire, that one has the built-in system that we can pump from that to the aerial.
But you would have to have them close to each other.
You'd have to have them at least within 100 foot. I think we can relay pump
But
blocks,
If we can
actually.
put it on this truck, I think that's great, yeah, if we can get
I
it
guess
done.
that's my point, is that it's not going to get easier to make this different than
No.
today.
No, the easiest time to do it would be now.
If you had to guess, Marty, what would it cost?
I could throw out a wild number and say I think a system like that is $5,000, but I honestly don't know for sure. I know that the Husky system that was on engine 1 was in the neighborhood of $20,000.
I
But
think
that was,
that would increase the value of our trade-in.
yeah, there it is. There it is. I like the positive thinking.
well, that's what we're talking is potentially the value of our current, approximately 10,000 in a good case scenario that could potentially take care of that.
Could potentially take care of
That'd be
that.
so then we maybe can find out more information about that system. Not saying we necessarily would do it, but I mean it'd be nice to have that option that if we
You'd
can
have the
find a way to make it
information then.
happen.
You'd have the information then.
Are you familiar with the DEF system and how long does DEF deteriorate?
About that before.
Yeah.
Either one of us for sure, because obviously there aren't a lot of miles put onto this truck. If we build that thing full of DEF, I don't know if it does deteriorate. I mean, obviously...
I don't think that it does, but I can't swear to it.
I think that might be an important thing to, we either need to figure out how to work around it or
Well,
consider other options.
one of the
We would
things
like
that
this to
I
start when you turn the switch.
one of the things I've thought is the tank that they put on there, I think is like a 5-gallon tank or something like that. And it's on every fire truck now. Either you have that or you have this Gen 3, I think it's called, which is the reburn system. Our international truck has that on it. And they've had problems with that because what happens when that decides that it's time to regen, it'll shut everything off and just start doing it. And they get extremely hot when they do that. They actually put switches on fire trucks so that if it goes into that mode, you can bypass that for a certain amount of time. That's why I think they went to the DEF systems on here, because I think they've had a lot less problems with them. And there was talk, I asked him about it, there was talk at one time of exempting emergency vehicles from having to do that. It's only been talk so far because they haven't been able to push it through. But I don't know that there's any option. You either have to have the DEF system or you have to have the regen system.
I think we probably ought to figure out if the DEF system will work for as little as we drive.
I think that'd be a pretty easy...
I think so too. Everybody I work with that has DEF drives a lot, so it's not a question that it
Yeah.
ever deteriorates for them.
How many
And-
hours or miles, however you measure it, do we have on our existing 35-year-old truck?
The odometer on it, I believe, has somewhere around, I want to say it's 2,000
How much?
miles. 2,000 miles, something like that, I think. It just seems like that's what I remember seeing on it one
Can
time.
we save those tires?
You don't want to save those tires.
No, I'm just, no.
That's one of the things about this that's a lot nicer is it's an all-air ride system, whereas the old one has the old walking beam system, and those eat tires up terribly.
Can we approve this motion with an addendum that if the foam apparatus is no more than $10,000 that we could add it?
With what, Ryan?
I said, could we make this motion tonight to approve this with an addendum to it that if the foam system is $10,000 or less, that we add it? And if so, I'd make that motion, but if we can do that. I'm looking at Brad and Steve, and nobody's saying anything so far.
Yes, you can do that.
I would second that.
We'd probably have to do an addendum to the purchase agreement too.
I was thinking of
Well,
making that
yeah.
motion with
That could be a separate purchase, I would think, couldn't it?
Well, I think
Where
we
you
don't.
handle it by the trade or something.
Yeah, unless it's only $5,000 to put it in.
Well, I said up to 5, or up to 10.
And that's assuming that after everybody thinks about it tonight, that that's an addition we want to make.
Right.
Is we kind of sprung it out here.
I think
and-
we do. I was thinking of making that motion with the negotiable trade-in value as well as the foam addition.
But we also don't know if they're going to take it as a trade-in. So I mean, I almost don't want to muddy this up.
Well, we just need to find out what it costs to put it on there.
Is it better to add that addendum, as Delane said, or just leave it and then do that as a separate agreement?
I'd like to move forward with it.
Yeah, there's some time urgency, isn't there?
Can't we leave it open to have some negotiation with Steve and Eric to work with them and get a trade-in value and get the foam situation on without having an exact dollar amount?
Yeah, and I think we can do that and adjust the purchase agreement accordingly to match that.
So if that was Delane motion, you already seconded
Yes.
it? All right.
It says
Here.
DEF has a shelf life of 2 years.
Pardon me?
DEF has a shelf life of 2 years if not exposed to the sun.
You ain't gonna see much sun in the fire station.
So they are, the motion includes approval of the present purchase agreement, right?
That's correct.
Because you're going to want to be able to say you've approved that, as opposed to going back and forth.
Right.
Mhm.
I was just trying to expedite things, that if we did want that foam, that we could go ahead and move that we'd approved it
Right.
So
along
you-
with the purchase.
You're
Yeah,
making the
Jim,
motion
can't we
to
approve
approve it
the
as it
purchase
stands, then
agreement
not
with the
up to
negotiation of
10,000,
those two
right?
items?
I'm sorry, you two people talking over here.
I'm sorry.
You're just approving it as is without the approval of doing the foam up to 10,000?
That was the motion that I made, was to include up to $10,000,
Okay, I wanted
and
to
that's
make
what
sure.
Keith
That's
seconded.
That's, I wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Further questions or discussion?
Well, we talked about earlier about testing the rig when it's complete. I just want to kind of point out to number 5 in the agreement that, as it's written there, that that the apparatus and equipment being purchased hereunder will not be driven or used in any manner until it's paid for in full, which would be once it gets here. So there's not going to be a lot of testing down there. Measuring, yeah, but so I know we talked about testing it and or driving or something, but that's as it's written here. So just want to bring that up.
Well, and I think the intent of number 5 is not driven or tested for use of putting out
Okay.
a fire.
Or driving
Exactly.
here. Okay.
Testing it and making sure everything operates is just
Right.
part of the...
I was gonna say, they
Building
better
process.
be driving that and testing it before
Well-
they bring it here.
Well, that's just how this is written. So let's bring it up.
Most of the companies that I've gone to dealing with fire trucks, when you come for the final acceptance, they want you to take it out and drive it, and they want you to know that you're comfortable with it, and they usually provide test results for the pumps and all that type of stuff in addition. So yeah, as far as driving it to see if how it drives and stuff,
Yeah.
I don't think that'd be a problem at all.
Yep.
Ain't gonna get anywhere real fast anyway, because it only goes 60 miles
Only
an hour.
goes 60 mile an hour. And did you see how they do that? I'd always wondered if they governed them or whatever, and I read through the specs, and they lock out 6th gear in the transmission, so it can't go into 6th gear. Darn it.
Well, we have it in time for the 4th of July parade.
He said, I asked him, I said, one of the things they might want to know is when it'd be done. He said, the outside time it would be done is the end of January.
We don't too fast, we've got to be able to finance this thing.
Okay, that's my next question, and there's a motion on the table, we're still discussing, right? I mean, we're going to bond for this, right?
Correct.
And we don't have to have a referendum, it's a needed utility or
It's an
something?
essential corporate purpose.
Central corporate purpose.
Right.
And so bonding now would be a good time because what I'm reading anyway, the rates are about as low as they're gonna get.
Right, yeah, so,
Everybody's got their opinion.
And through the period of this bonding, actually, we are going to have some items drop off, actually, in fact, during this time
well,
period.
as far
that-
timing-wise, it's coming into our debt schedule at a good time, because we
Good time,
we
yeah.
could fit it in without too much adjustment on, you know, that our levy rate from it. So actually, it'll blend in quite nicely. But, yeah, I have heard that, you know, December here, maybe January, we might see a tick up, but
And
in
we've
interest
recently
rates, so-
paid off some bonds in the last 6 months, so we're in good financial shape to take on a bond on this.
We would be.
Mhm.
And the fact that it's $500,000 less than, or more, less than a brand-new truck
Right,
certainly
right.
helps.
With a similar warranty as a new truck.
Okay. I'm ready.
Other discussion? Or questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Resolution 137-15 is approved.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Will that,
Thank-
will that go out on the tape, on the channel? This,
They could maybe add it on.
We can add it to him if they'd like. He's got other pictures too. This was just
Yeah, I've got a bunch of other pictures and stuff, but if you guys have any questions or want to see anything else, get a hold of me, I'll tell you
I
whatever.
was only,
For the
The
people at
channel.
home to see it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if we're able to get the camera around there on the screen or not.
I'm not sure if you can get that one there, but
Don't worry about it.
No, that
Yeah,
one-
let me know if you need
That
something.
one does too, but I don't know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
consideration of resolution 138-15, authorizing the city clerk to participate in a mentoring program with another city. Discussion.
I'm interested in going into the Iowa League of Cities mentoring program. It's for new city clerks. There seems to be really high turnover these days in city clerk positions, which is kind
A lot
of
of 'em are
sad.
crooked.
I know, it's scary. It's scary. But I would like to sign up for that to help out because I know how stressful and overwhelming it can be. Their resolution that the league sent, I just put that before you. I will strive to keep it to a minimum as far as during office hours. I may get phone calls during work hours. I'm hoping most of the questions will be just a quick answer type of thing. But if there would be a need for me to travel right to the site, I would do all that on my own time. The city would not be responsible for any of the expenses associated with that. And if this would happen to get to be a problem with interfering with my work here, I would definitely not do it anymore because this is my #1 priority, obviously. But it is something that I would like to participate in. So if you guys think it would be okay, it would be nice to pass the resolution, and I'll let the league know to put me on the list, if that's okay. So
Put you on the list.
I'm sure you have me on a list.
I think what I've been reading about small-town Iowa, this is a necessary thing. We need some help in the city clerk situation, and we've had a lot of small-town problems. I'd like to see us do this. I think, and Judy and I talked about this earlier, but I think we're snaking ourselves to think it will not interfere with her job completely. We have to have some acceptance of that, but we would have to be understanding because she does have a full-time 60-hour-a-week job. But if there's any travel expense or anything like that, either you're going to have to take it or whoever you're mentoring with is going to have to pick it up.
Right.
But we have to be very careful not to empower your job as least as possible,
Exactly.
in my opinion.
I agree 100%. So,
Further questions or discussion?
so move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Resolution 138-15 is approved.
Thanks, guys.
Consideration of motion approving litigation concerning nuisance property. Discussion.
And this is just a follow-up on our discussion from our last workshop on 1911 Clark Street. I think Brett's going to bring us up to speed on where we're at with that.
Our office prepared and filed a petition late last week. There's a property at 1911 Clark that has been abandoned. I don't think it's been occupied for a number of years. We've basically just been sitting on it since April, hoping to get in contact with the owners. Sent mail to a couple different addresses, and actually were able to track down a phone number that's since been disconnected. So we've extended a number of different efforts to try to get in contact with them. Still haven't been able to. So we filed a petition to have the court determine that the property is abandoned, and there's a code section that allows the city to take title to the property after you publish notice. There's a number of factors the court looks at, like whether taxes are being paid, whether there's utilities connected to the property, the length of time that it's been abandoned, that no one's been living in the property, whether it's a blight on the neighboring properties. So we're just asking right now for approval to publish notice and continue with this litigation, with hope that we get a court hearing set. I think we have to wait 60 days, have code enforcement officers testify that it's an abandoned property, and the court would then determine that it's abandoned and give title of the property to the city.
Brad, that's the house on the corner of Clark and Smith Avenue, right across from that Quick Trip, right?
Right.
Correct.
And that's been abandoned for 20 years.
Yeah,
It
and
needs to be.
we've inspected it. It's not inhabitable.
I drove by there today. I was sure that's what it was, but there's those numbers on it. But
There was some inquiry, I think, by the owner about a year and a half ago about making it inhabitable, and the code enforcement said there was just, there's just too many things that would have to happen to make that possible, and so
it's history.
It's
I moved
history.
on it.
It's not in good
Yeah.
shape.
Second.
Yeah. One question, you already filed something and we haven't done the motion to approve?
We haven't served notice yet, and we actually, we talked about it. I think you talked about it at the last meeting.
Last workshop.
We aren't sure that any action's required, but felt more comfortable getting a motion in front of the council before we proceed with publishing notice and going any further on it. So.
Okay.
Another one point I raised that, I'm sure you guys are going to take care of is my only concern was that we are in a good position, nice paper trails through the course and everything, that if this homeowner would come back and notice his home, his property, it's not really home, his property is gone, that we have that paper trails, through the course of saying, yep, here's what happened, here's your responsibilities that you did not follow through with, here's why we were able to do this, here's why we did it. And so, he would more likely try to get some sort of remedy, but he failed as a homeowner, as a property owner.
Mike, he ought to be happy all the money we saved him.
But still, in a litigious world, we may hear from this person again.
Well, the code section specifically sets forth service and allows publication in a local newspaper, and then service by posting on the property itself.
And you'd mentioned on proper taxes, have they been paid?
The property taxes are currently delinquent.
Oh, okay. That was the other thing I was
They
going to ask.
have or have not?
They're currently delinquent.
Have not been paid.
So if they'd been paid, there'd be some sort of trail as to where they got paid from or how, and so...
That was almost kind of the final straw that we were waiting for to see if the taxes would get paid, and that didn't happen.
It'd be different if the person was stateside, but once someone goes overseas, it could be really difficult to get a hold of someone that was my only concern. I have no doubt this is an abandoned property. It's just crossing T's, dotting I's. We don't enjoy taking property. We don't want to. This is one of those that once it's abandoned, we have no other recourse if we want to remedy the situation.
Who takes control of the land then? The city? Okay.
Further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is approved. Miscellaneous correspondence.
We have a Christmas card that was delivered today to the City Council from George Livesey. He works, I think, shoveling snow for Heidi, and
He sent me a card, too.
he sends you one too? Okay.
Well, how'd you get your own, Your Honor?
So,
Well,
anyway,
thank you very much.
This went to you guys. So yeah, that was very nice of
And
you.
sorry for the butchered name.
I know, yeah.
Send a
his
separate card to
writing-
Trudy for that.
His writing is almost as bad as mine, so, anyway,
Well, that's not...
it's bad.
But the card's appreciated nonetheless.
Yes, exactly. The sentiment was there.
Anything else?
That's it.
City Attorney's report.
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
City Clerk's report.
Our next meeting will be a planning session on December 16th at 7 o'clock. And I guess I'll let Steve talk about the budget schedule he has prepared for you guys to look at to see how it works into your schedules. And one last thing, I do want to wish someone a very happy birthday today. Our esteemed mayor's birthday is today, so I hate to see you having to spend it at a council meeting, but we're glad you're here. So happy birthday.
Thank you.
Birthday, Your Honor.
I'd sing, but I'm a terrible singer, so
And
we're
we
just gonna
appreciate
pass
that
on
not
that. Yeah,
happening.
so you're
Yeah,
welcome.
She does that over the telephone.
Yeah.
City Administrator's report.
Well, speaking of said budget timeline, everybody should have a copy.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
from here. And what I've done was I reformulated our timeline from last year. I used similar dates, similar nights, so please take this with you and let's start reviewing to see if these dates and times work out. The start times I left exactly the same as what we had before, so obviously let me know, let us know if we need to adjust those. But I guess basically I was giving Trudy a hard time before. It's a lot easier to tell on the colored version that I see on my screen, but
Didn't we get the color fixed or something? Or?
I told Trudy that's what I want for Christmas is a color printer.
Colored pencils. I'm going to get you colored pencils for that.
I bet it'd be clear on iPads or something.
So on next Wednesday, I've scheduled that for our goal setting, basically our night to kind of review our goals, where we're at, what we've accomplished, what we're working on, what we want to do. So that'll be next Wednesday after the workshop, I assume. We'll do our regular workshop first, then we'll meet and have our budget goal setting workshop. It should be fairly brief. I know the workshop agenda is pretty brief right now. But then we kick off our actual meetings with budget workshops on January 6th. And we've got about 6 meetings planned and a couple alternate dates in there, so take a look at those nights and those dates and let me know if those don't work. Secondly, I wanted to mention that tomorrow I'm going to be in Ames, our City Energy Advisory Team. We have the culmination event where all the communities that have been involved with this project, we're meeting in Ames tomorrow to review and discuss the project. Since this was kind of a pilot project, we'll be talking about how it's worked, what's worked, what hasn't, and improvements for continuing that in the future. So I'll be in Ames tomorrow. So with that said, tomorrow is also the Board of Supervisors are having a workshop where to kind of follow up in connection with what we've talked about with our joint facility session on the Law Enforcement Center. They've invited Kevin Epperly from FVH to come in and just talk about possible next steps. And so they're going to be just generally meeting with him to talk about that. I've asked John to attend. He's going to be able to go tomorrow. I know the mayor's going to try and go. But if there's any other council members or anybody that would like to attend, the Board of Supervisors, that's at 9 o'clock. And so it's about halfway down the agenda. But so please feel free to attend that. And lastly, I just want to mention that at our workshop next Wednesday, we'll be talking about some water meter ideas, and also we'll be having the folks from Spear Financial come up and visit with us. And Spear Financial, they are municipal financial advisors of Waterloo, whom I've worked with before, and I'm looking at possibly bringing them on board to help out with our bond issuances, our debt scheduling, our various reporting, and different things. So I just want to introduce you to them and see what you guys think. So
That's on the 16th.
that'll be on the 16th.
Sir.
Could we also at some point, Steve, get a update or talk about the McQuillan Place project?
Yes.
Because that seems to be moving quite slow.
It does. It does. We have
Is it moving?
it's moving. We have weekly meetings with the owner and the foreman on the project, and we'd like to see it move faster. The weather's been pretty decent, and you know, the third floor is supposed to start happening here in the next week or two, and told him it'd be nice to be talking about a roof by New Year's, so we'll see what happens. But
I know you guys are meeting and stuff, but I just think it's really important because, the council, took some action to get involved in this thing, and I think we got a pretty good stake in it, and I think we need to stay on top of it.
yes.
Okay.
Other than that, that's all I have, Mayor.
I want to go back just for a second to the budget. The capital improvement plan, hopefully as we go through the budget process, after you've reviewed the goals, and then you've got the capital improvement plan or portions of that, the fire truck being an example, hopefully you'll sort of highlight or earmark where in the budget these items are for impact purposes, so that we can basically see where we're moving forward, where we're already done, or we're not going to do it, or something like that.
Sure.
Okay? And board, commission, or committee reports. Any? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're adjourned.